Hi everyone, I'm Wang Jigang. Today we're going to share more about this new product that we plan to launch in 2026. It's called Saga. We've already tested this tent many times. However, after each test, we always receive a lot of suggestions from friends. Here I want to especially thank a friend from the UK named David. He wrote me an email and we've had a lot of communication. Many friends have given us a lot of suggestions on our YouTube channel to help us improve this tent. Usually, when a tent brand designs a new tent, they put it directly on sale. But this time, I decided to do things differently. First, we design a prototype of a tent, and then we share the structure and some details of this tent on our social media platforms. Next, let's listen to everyone's feedback on this product, including suggestions. This way, it can help us improve it even further, because even the best designer has limitations in their ideas since it's just one person. By presenting our design to the public in the early stages, we are able to hear all kinds of feedback, which helps us refine the details and ultimately achieve a more complete product. I believe that here, I feel that my perspective has truly undergone a significant change. I want to thank everyone. For this tent, we did a wind test last week, and when we release it, there should be two versions. The first version uses 20D double-sided silicone-coated fabric, which is relatively lighter. The second version uses a 30D double-sided silicone-coated fabric, which means it has higher tear strength. Of course, this also means it will be a bit heavier. During our testing process, for example, with this double pull point, we also heard everyone's suggestions, hoping that we could move the pull points a bit lower. I think that's a pretty good suggestion as well. This way, the entire tent pole will be more stable when viewed from the side. Also, a friend gave us a suggestion. He hopes we can add a pull point on the side of the fabric. This could provide better ventilation between the inner and outer tents, since the gap would be larger. Secondly, it also increases its stability, but we also need to consider whether the fabric can maintain its strength when making this tie-out point. There are usually two ways to make a tie-out point. One is to have a reinforcement fabric here and then sew it directly onto the main fabric. If we use 30D double-sided silicone-coated fabric, I'm not too worried about this issue because it has sufficient tear strength. However, if we use 20 denier double-sided silicone-coated fabric and there is a single point bearing the force, I'm quite concerned that in strong winds, the fabric might get torn apart. In this case, we will also conduct tests to see if it can withstand such pressure. Another method is to move this sewing thread to the top for cutting. Sewing it on top is also a good approach. However, this will add another point. This could increase the possibility of water leakage because this is a double-coated fabric and we don't apply seam taping on the sewing lines of this fabric. So we will conduct a careful and comprehensive assessment of the feasibility of this matter. And then we'll see through practice whether it can meet the requirements for this tent. Originally, there were two guideline attachment points designed, but now we've decided to move the lower attachment point even further down so that the positions of the guidelines are completely separated into two instead of using this O-ring. This way, the stability will be a bit better. We will add pull points in the middle of the doors. For the 4 doors, a total of 4 pull points will be added. As for this part, it depends on your needs. If you want the tent to be more stable, you can add an extra ground stake. But if you're using it in less harsh conditions, you might not need to. So when it comes to making choices, you can simply decide based on your own circumstances. Now this pull point is done now. The stitching is really beautiful. Now this is what we refer to as the single layer anchor reinforcement method, which is a technique used in construction. And then we're going to tie a guy rope on top and check its strength. This is another method. Add a reinforcement patch right on top of this area. And then after that, this one is added directly onto the sewing line. This way, it's relatively more secure than this method. We'll also tie on the guy ropes to see how it works. Let me show you how to tie a guy rope knot and share it with everyone while I'm at it.
Cross the rope into a circle, then pass it through here. Then thread it through again and tighten.
Make a loop knot, thread it in, then just tuck it in from here. Push it in, pull the rope to lengthen it and tighten. It's okay like this now, at the moment, you know? Let's thoroughly test its overall strength and see how well it performs.
Now I'm using two 20 kilograms cast iron weights to hold down the fabric, and adding my own weight, I'm 80 kilograms.
Next, let's take a look at the tear strength of this fabric. I asked my colleague to come up and pull the fabric. Okay, pull. Harder. Okay. Wow. Okay. Earlier, for the tensile test, we used sewing thread to attach two anchor points inside using two different methods. This triangular fabric patch looks more stable. The single point method is lighter, but I'm concerned that if it faces continuous strong winds, it might tear. It's very sturdy and feels quite solid. Now let's go ahead and try the last method, directly sewing a reinforcement point onto the fabric itself. Let's see if it can withstand strong force. Let's take a look. Go ahead. Start. All right, start. Okay. Let's use the tensile testing machine to measure it. It's already torn.
It's now 174 newtons.
The fabric can't hold up anymore. Okay, when the tension eventually reached a total of 214 newtons, the fabric was torn apart. Single layer fabric. There probably isn't wind that strong anywhere in the world, right? Let's take another look at this double needle stitched fabric and test it out. It was torn apart. You might not have seen it clearly because the lighting in the lab isn't great. It's backlit. This is a double needle seam, which we've sewn onto the tent's tie-out point. Its tear resistance is stronger than that of a single point tie-out. If I remember correctly, the single point strength was 214, right? And now, this strength is over 300. It took 372 newtons to tear it apart. So, theoretically speaking, both of these methods are fine. There's no problem with either of them. We can sew it onto the tent and give it a try.
Good afternoon, everyone. Now I've set up this tent again, after making some detailed adjustments. Let's discuss them together. First, we've extended the distance between the two attachment points of the guy lines downward.
Originally, the spacing might have been around 40 centimeters, but now it's about 70 centimeters. In this way, from the side view, it provides double stability from both below and above. Currently, the guy line I'm using is 250 centimeters long, but I still feel it's not long enough because I think if the distance between the stake and the tent is a bit greater, it could provide even better wind resistance and stability for the tent. So, before the product is released, I will change the guy line length to 300 centimeters so that the stake can be placed even farther out. Because the fabric width of the entire tent is only 148 centimeters, we need to make a fabric seam here. However, if we place this seam at this position, because of the double silicone coated fabric, if we make the seam here, there's a possibility of water seeping through when it rains. Of course, it's not 100%, but I'm concerned there might be leakage, so we've decided to place the seam at the bottom instead. This way, even if it rains and water seeps in, the angle ensures that the inner tent won't get wet. So, this design provides better waterproofing and enhanced stability. These are some of the changes you can see from the side. Now let's take a look from the front. Now I'm following the suggestions from everyone in the comments section. We've added this fixed point in the middle of both sides of the door, also using this type of elastic cord. The diameter of this elastic cord is 3 mm. It also has double loops, so you can stake it closer or farther away. If you stake it farther away, you can just use a single loop, which will make it more stable. Both sides have this feature. Now let's take a closer look at the detailed internal structure of the tent. I think equipping the tent with a single person inner tent is the best choice because it gives you a large vestibule where you can cook. Or if you have a small pet, it can sleep here as well.
Next, we want to focus on introducing how to use this trekking pole.
Now, I've laid a ground sheet that fully covers the bottom, and I've made a hole in the ground sheet so I can secure the trekking pole. However, since this is a one-person inner tent, I might need to move the hole a bit further inside.
I will set up 4 holes on this base plate so that everyone won't have to worry about distinguishing the front from the back.
Just hang everything securely on this single ground peg. This fabric is a material produced in Italy called Hypalon, an extremely durable fabric. As you can see, the trekking pole is inserted into this pocket, and for one side of this pocket I will also use Hypalon to make it. This way, it will be more three-dimensional, and inserting the trekking pole will be much easier. Also, the adjuster on this guy line is very important. Once we've set up the trekking pole, we can use this adjuster here to tighten the guy line. This way, the entire tent pole will be very stable. Be sure to pay close attention to this. If the wind is particularly strong, we can even tie a slip knot right here, then use it to securely fasten the stopper in place. Now, with this tent, our second round of improvements has basically come to an end. Next month, we'll be taking this tent camping in the snow mountains. Let's examine its wind resistance and snow load capacity. Since this tent is not a standard ultralight tent, when we selected the materials, we prioritized its stability. Therefore, the tent poles are DAC NSL with a 10.25 mm diameter. The fabric is 20D double-sided silicone coated. In addition, we've added some pockets inside the inner tent, which makes it more convenient for everyone to use. At the same time, we've also designed the inner tent in 2 versions, a single-person and a double-person option. Well, we've noticed that some users actually prefer the extra space and comfort of a 2-person tent, but there are 2 potential issues with 2-person tents. Their overall weight tends to increase, and the available vestibule space becomes noticeably smaller. So everyone needs to consider whether you need a single-person inner tent or a double-person inner tent. That's about it for the details of this tent. We sincerely hope that everyone will continue to watch and enjoy our videos. And if you have any new ideas or suggestions in the future, please do not hesitate to keep sharing them with us. We would really appreciate your feedback and support. Thank you all very much for being with us. Bye-bye.